This portion of Montana Free was brought to you by Built Bar. If you want to eat something that actually tastes decent, not like cardboard and ground up garbage, you need to head over to Built.com. Make your selections. They got some outstanding ones, let me tell you. Then once you get that done, at checkout, make sure that you use Montana Free as your promo code, and you'll get 10% off your current order and any order after that, because I guarantee you, you're going to order more. Head over to Built.com, check them out. They have some other stuff too, pour in some broth, all that kind of fun stuff. It's, I'm telling you, the cookie dough ones. Ugh. Anyway, yeah, check them out. Built.com, Montana Free promo code, save yourself 10% on your next order. How in the heck is everybody doing tonight? Looks like we got a few people in. Patriot 1776, nice to see you over on Foxhole. And then of course we have Amethyst Cat and Tiana, and I think I saw Hots was in there. Nice to see you guys all here. Let's see, who else do we got in that I'm missing? Miss JLK, nice to see you. So tonight's going to be a little bit different show. Patterson, how's it going? Decided to do something a little different, seeing as how it is the Christmas season. And, you know, we've talked about enough dark stuff lately. I don't know. I think we need a break from it for a bit. How about you guys? So we're going to do some stuff that we can broadcast out to all of my channels. And then for those of you that aren't on DLive or Foxhole, you might want to get on there. Because we're going to be doing a screening of Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown. And we'll also be playing an audiobook that kind of dives back in the history of St. Nicholas before he was St. Nick. So, should be an interesting show tonight. If you haven't had a chance, get your butt over to Foxhole or get your butt over to DLive. And, yeah. Find me over there. It's going to be a fun night. But I was sitting here thinking, and I pulled this up right before I came on, so you'll have to forgive me. You know, if you're like me, there's times where you dread this time of year. Because you may end up going to somebody's house or a relative's house over the holidays that you just know you guys don't see eye to eye. Whether it be political beliefs or fundamentals or whatever. And it's just, you just know it's going to be a fight. Well, I was sitting here thinking to myself and doing I don't want to do this again this year. Hey Eric, how's it going? And then I remembered a story that I'd heard. Oh, this was quite a few years ago. But I made sure to go and look it up. And tonight we're just going to read through it here before we start up the fun and entertainment. And see if you can understand where I'm coming from with this story. On Christmas Eve, 1914, in a dank, muddy trench on the Western Front of the First World War, a remarkable thing happened. It came to be called the Christmas Truce, and it remains one of the most storied and strangest moments of the Great War, or of any war, as far as that matter. British machine gunner Bruce Bairnsfather, now you'll have to forgive me because I have to fight through some of these names, later a prominent cartoonist, wrote about it in his memoirs. Like most of the fellow infantry of the 1st Battalion of the Royal Warwickshire Regiment, he was spending the holiday eve shivering in a muck and trying to keep warm. He had spent a good part of the past few months fighting the Germans. And now, in a part of Belgium called Bayos de Ploegstreet, that's an interesting name, he was crouched in a trench that stretched just 3 feet deep and 3 feet wide. His days and nights marked by endless cycles of sleeplessness and fear, stale biscuits and cigarettes too wet to light. Here I was in a horrible clay cavity, Bairnsfield wrote, miles and miles from home, cold, wet through, and covered with mud. There didn't seem the slightest chance of leaving except in an ambulance. Singing breaks out in the trenches on Christmas Eve. At about 10 p.m., Baron's father noticed a noise. I listened, he recalled. Away across the field, among the dark shadows beyond, I could hear a murmur of voices. He turned to his fellow soldiers in his trench and said, "Do you hear the Germans kicking up that racket over there?" "Yes," came the reply. "They've been at it for some time." The Germans were singing carols, as it was Christmas Eve. In the darkness, some of the British soldiers began to sing back. Suddenly, Baron's father recalled, we heard a confused shouting from the other side. We all stopped and listened. The shout came again. The voice was from the enemy soldiers, speaking in English, with a strong German accent. He was saying, "Come over here." One of the British sergeants answered, "You come halfway, I come halfway." British and German soldiers meet in the no man's land. What happened next would be, in the years to come, stun the world and make history. Enemy soldiers began to climb nervously out of their trenches and to meet in the barbed wire-filled no man's land that separated the armies. Normally, the British and German communicated across no man's land with streaks of bullets, with only occasional gentleman allowance to collect the dead unmolested. But now, there were handshakes and words of kindness. The soldiers traded songs, tobacco, and wine, joining in a spontaneous holiday party in the cold night. Bairnsfield could not believe his eyes. Here they were, the actual, practical soldiers of the German army. There was not an atom of hate on either side. And it wasn't confined to the battlefield. Starting on Christmas Eve, small pockets of French, German, Belgian, and British troops held impromptu ceasefires across the Western Front, with reports of some on the Eastern Front as well. Some accounts suggested a few of those unofficial truces remained in effect for days. For those who participated, it was surely a welcome break from the hell they had been enduring. When the war had begun just 6 months earlier, most soldiers figured it would be over quickly, and they'd be home with their families in the time of the holidays. Not only would the war drag on for 4 more years, but it would prove to be the bloodiest conflict ever up to that point. The Industrial Revolution had made it possible to mass-produce new and devastating tools for killing. Among them, fleets of airplanes and guns that could fire hundreds of rounds per minute. And bad news on both sides had left soldiers with plummeting morale. There was a devastating Russian defeat at Tannenberg in August 1914. and the Germans lost in the Battle of the Marne a week later. By the time winter approached in 1914 and the chill set in, the Western Front stretched hundreds of miles. Countless soldiers were living in miserable in the trenches on the front, while tens of thousands had already died. Then Christmas came. Descriptions of Christmas truce appear in numerous diaries and letters of that time. One British soldier, a rifleman named J. Redding, wrote a letter home to his wife describing the holiday experience in 1914. My company happened to be in a firing line on Christmas Eve, and it was my turn to go into the ruined house and remain there until 6:30 on Christmas morning. During the early part of the morning, the Germans started singing and shouting, all in good English. They shouted out, "Are you the Rifle Brigade? Have you a spare bottle? If so, we'll come halfway and you come the other half." Later on in the day, they came towards us. Redding described, I would be getting my diggers right about there. And our chaps went out to meet them. I shook hands with some of them, and they gave us cigarettes and cigars. We did not fire that day, and everything was so quiet, it seemed like a dream. Another British soldier, John Ferguson, recalled it the way, "Here we were, laughing and chatting, to men whom only a few hours before we were trying to kill." Other diaries and letters describe German soldiers using candles to light Christmas trees around their trenches. One German infantryman described how the British soldiers set up a makeshift barbershop, charging Germans a few cigarettes each for a haircut. Wow. In another account, the German scolded his fellow soldiers during the Christmas truce. "Such a thing should not happen in wartime. Have you no German sense of honor left?" That 25-year-old soldier's name was Adolf Hitler. Neither was High Command in the festive mood. On December 7, 1914, Pope Benedict had implored leaders of the battling nations to hold a Christmas truce, asking that the guns may fall silent, at least upon the night the angels sang. The plea was officially ignored. So when this truce spontaneously broke out, the leaders of all the armies were reportedly horrified. British General Sir Horace Smith Dorrien wrote in a confidential memorandum that this is only illustration of the apathetic state we are gradually sinking into. Some accounts of the Christmas truce hold that soldiers were punished for fraternizing, and top command issued orders that it should never happen again. For the rest of World War I, a conflict that would ultimately roughly cost 15 million lives, no Christmas truce appeared. But in 1914, those curious holiday get-togethers reminded all those involved that war were fought not by forces, but by human beings. So, when you're sitting around the dinner table this holiday season, and you're talking with some of those folks that you may not have talked to for quite a while. I can't believe I'm one to say this, but put the knives away. Sit back and enjoy each other's company. Don't bring up the bullshit that we put up with every day. We have plenty of time for that. Let's try to remember that everyone is human. And we all make mistakes. So, hopefully that strikes a chord with you. We'll see. But for now, everybody on DLive and Foxhole is going to enjoy a nice Christmas get-together. And for you folks that aren't on DLive or Foxhole, and you're watching me right now, don't know what you're waiting for. Get your butts over there. But for now, I gotta say goodbye, because what we're about to do just ain't allowed over in your neck of the woods. So see you later.